Welcome along to Friday Forum Live, coming to you from Point Blank here in Hoxton, East London. My name's Luke Hopper, and today I'm joined here in the studio by Chris Calcutt. So Chris is here to give us an insight into two brand new controllers from Novation, the Launchpad S and the Launchkey keyboard. We're going to get an insight into how these controllers can be used to start a track from scratch and how they're set up to control Ableton Live. But just before we get into the session, I'll give you a quick couple of highlights that's been going on this week at Point Blank. So first up, we had a masterclass edited down into the highlights from DJ Hatcher. That one's just gone up on our YouTube channel, so head over there to see that in full. Also, we have a new tutor interview up on Point Blank Plus. Producer, engineer, and Point Blank tutor Anthony Chapman is in a pretty extensive interview with Marcus Barnes, so head over to the blog Point Blank Plus to check that out. And finally, the full range of online courses get underway on April 29th, this Monday, so make sure you head over to pointblankonline.net and check out all the courses that are on offer. So that's enough from me. Let's get into it, and I'll hand you over to Chris Calcutt. So many thanks for coming along, Chris.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It's a pleasure to be here. It's great. So so we've been pretty busy guys over at Focusrite and Novation this year. We were just totting up downstairs the amount of products that we've kind of brought out this year, and it's I think it's around about 12 products in Focusrite and Novation. We've announced two very interesting brand new Novation products very recently, and that is the Launchpad S, which is the updated Launchpad, and the brand new controller keyboard, the Launchkey, as well. There are other products as well, such as the long-awaited base station, which is very exciting as well. But today I thought it'd be good to kind of concentrate on the two new sort of controller products. And they're quite an interesting sort of approach, because of course they are both door controllers, but as I say, we've been exceptionally busy at Novation, and we've actually got a couple of pretty fantastic apps as well.
Okay.
And the great thing about both of these controllers is that they are very friendly with iPads as well, so we can actually use them to control the apps. I thought it might be quite nice to just start off with a quick look at the apps and sort of how they how they work and function, and then sort of how the controllers will work with those, and then we'll get into sort of door control as well, using the hardware. So the first one that we'll have a look at is the Launchpad app itself. And the Launchpad app is essentially, if you like, a kind of an app version of what you can do with the Launchpad, in that we've got a whole load of samples and loops and samples and one-shots and that sort of thing built into the app itself. It's laid out very similar to the Launchpad. We have, in this instance, we've got 6 rows of 8 different samples available, and we can do things like, for example, choose which sample we want to use. So if we go to the edit mode, double tap on there, we can click on the actual clip itself and choose from a whole list of Loopmaster samples that have been provided for the Launchpad app. Other things that we've got on here as well, if we come back out here, we've got things like filter effects as well, so we can control a bit of filtering. We have a mixer as well, so we can control volumes of the different tracks that we've got, and effects control as well, which include things like stutter and synced filter LFO sweeps, that sort of stuff. So yes, I mean, this is the first app that we have. The second app that we've also released as well is the fabulous Launchkey, which is essentially an analog modelling synth, with a lot of control in there as well, some really nice sounds. And this quite interesting sort of section up at the top here, where we can set up what we call nodes, and these work with the different parameters. So for example, I can kind of play a note here and use this node to actually control different parameter changes. I don't know if you can see there, but the actual encoders that we're moving around as that moves. So both of these apps are completely free. It's worth noting as well that actually today we're really happy to announce that we've actually got the brand new version of the Launchkey app out. It's completely free, as I say, and we've added quite a few new features to that as well. One of the biggest requests that we had for Launchkey was audio bus. So we're really happy to say that we've now got audio bus implementation. The other thing was the tempo control for the arpeggiator and that sort of stuff. And again, that's on there now. What I've got here for the demo though is the version 1 that we've got. So the apps are fantastic and workable in their own way, but we do also have the ability, as I mentioned, to actually control these apps using our controllers. So what I'll do is I'll just close down the Launchkey for now, and I'll just show you the Launchpad. Now I've got to work out which is my cable for this one. So just the old sort of pull test. It's this one here. So using a camera connection kit, we just plug it directly into the side of the iPad there. We open up the app, and we have a couple of different power modes for the Launchpad. And in order for us to be able to use the Launchpad directly with the iPad, we put it into low power mode.
Okay.
One of the key features on the brand new Launchpad is the fact that we've got a lot brighter LEDs and a lot faster refresh rate as well. MIDI implementation has been sped up quite a bit as well. But obviously, in order to get this to be bus powered directly from the iPad, we do need to put it into low power mode. And this is it in low power mode, and we're in quite a bright studio here. We've got a lot of light and things are nice and bright in here as well. So in terms of control, I mean, it's fairly straightforward really on the Launchpad, so we can just trigger the clips as we want. And again, these can just be sort of fired as and when needed. If I just put it into trigger mode here, I'll be able to see what one shots as well. So we can just play around with this sort of thing. And then at the bottom here, because we've got six rows in the actual app, the bottom 2 rows on the Launchpad itself can be used to control the effects. So we'll just have a quick listen to some of the stutter effects that we've got. So we can have a lot of fun just controlling the app itself directly from the Launchpad. Now, alongside the Launchpad, of course, we have got the Launchkey keyboard.
Yeah.
Launchkey is essentially a full Novation controller keyboard. We have a 25-note version, a 49-note version, and a 61-note. This is the 49 here. So alongside the 49 keys, we've actually also got 50 different controls on the controller as well. And once again, this is fully applicable to be bus powered with the iPad. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to plug the Launchpad for now, and grab my camera connection kit, putting that on there. We'll plumb into the iPad itself. Okay. And now we have control again over the Launchpad app itself. So if I kind of use my fast forward rewind buttons to move up and down, I don't know if you can see here, we can kind of scrub up and down on the actual screen there and select the sample we want to start. So we just start to trigger these off again. We can use these circular buttons to actually to move into the effects mode as well. So whereas I had this up on the screen before, I don't actually need this now, so I can. Okay, so we've got control over the effects here, but if I want to, for example, control my filters as well, I can go to filter now, and because I've got my encoders here, I can start to really sort of play around with those as well. So it's a really well configured system. If I go to my volume control again, so we can use the volume controls there as well. So this is great. So we've got the Launchpad being controlled directly from the keyboard on an iPad, so a nice neat solution here. But if I use my track buttons here, this is where it gets quite interesting. If I press this button here, it'll actually open up the Launchkey app for me. So I can actually flip between the two different apps just by using the track
So no need to go to the iPad at all?
Not at all, no, that's it. We can just instantly go to it. Now, if I start to use the encoders again, you see I'm still controlling the filter sweeping there on the Launchpad. Yeah. If I take the in control button off here, now I can start to use this with the actual controls on the synth itself. So now we've got an arpeggiator stuck on there, so if I just press the play button, the stop button, that'll stop the arpeggiator, and we can use the transport controls here for latch control as well. So. So we can see we've got quite a lot of control here with the two apps. If I take this off, which is pointing at the sliders, now effectively I can control different envelope shapers using the sliders as well. And if I take the switch off on the pads here, the drum pads, I can actually use this to choose different presets as well.
Okay.
If I've got a preset that I really like, if I hold this button down and press it, I can now save that as a favourite as well and can always instantly recall it. I mentioned about the node before as well, how we can fire that across. Again, we can do that with the Launchkey pad, the second set of pads on the underside. But then want to go back to my Launchpad app without having to go to the iPad at all. I can now just, again, go back to the pad control and start to play around. So the two free apps and the Launchkey keyboard controller make for a really kind of powerful workstation, really, with a lot of configuration and a comprehensive, sort of cover of the two instruments. So, I mean, that's one kind of thing that we can do using Launchkey, Launchpad. But of course, we've got the iPad apps, of course. But we are Novation and build DAW controllers, and this is a really powerful DAW controller as well. So I'll just unplug her from the iPad.
I've got a quick question, Chris, while you're kind of unplugging this and bobs.
Good stuff.
Sivad on the chat room has asked, what are the main differences between the Launchpad and the Launchpad S?
Okay, cool, yeah. Well, the key difference really is, there's a few key differences. The first thing is that it's a lot brighter, okay? The engineers have worked really, really hard to squeeze as much light out of the LEDs as possible. It looks identical, and in many ways the functionality is very, is identical. But the point is that underneath here, there's been a lot of re-engineering to get a lot more out of the LEDs, and also they refresh a lot quicker as well. Another another key factor on the Launchpad S is the fact that MIDI is it handles MIDI around about sort of 40 times faster than the original Launchpad 2. It's class compliant now. I mean, that obviously is why we can plug it directly into the iPad. We don't need to. The previous Launchpad, we needed to install the Novation MIDI driver. With this, it's class compliant, so we don't need to do that. And that opens up a lot of possibilities with other software as well.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously, it's a fantastic controller for Ableton, and there's a real comprehensive kind of, a really comprehensive control surface for Ableton. But it will open up to other doors as well now. For example, FL Studio is another one that it's perfectly at home with the Launchpad S as well. So those are really the key differences. But in terms of sort of Ableton functionality and that sort of thing, it's the same sort of control, but it's just a lot brighter and a lot faster. So that's it.
Cool. Good.
Cool. So now then, which one did I plug in there? It's it. So I'm going to just open up now. I'm going to open up. It's a demo version of Reason, but I think it's nice to show the Launchkey with Reason, because it's got a really kind of a nice deep integration into Reason itself. So I'm going to just bring in a couple of. Now I must admit I'm not a Reason user here, so bear with me as I kind of try and load things in and whatnot. But let's get some other stuff on here. So just get a few instruments on here so we've got something to play with. Okay. And one more for good measure. There we go. Oh, he says, yeah, there we are. Okay, cool. Now, with the Launchkey, we have a brand new kind of protocol, if you like, of being able to communicate with the DAW software. And we have now developed a thing called InControl, which is the way that things communicate. It's a really straightforward and simple way for software and hardware to talk to each other, and requires minimum of setup. In Reason, I've gone to my preferences and control surfaces, and I've just auto-detected there, and the Launchkey InControl has come up directly for me.
Okay.
And so what I can do now is, if I, for example, go to my mixer, if I go to the main mixer here, if I want to just right-click, it says right-click. Hang on. Let's see, have I got this right? Told you I'm not a Reason user. There we go. So if I just lock InControl to this device now, so straight away I've got you know, sort of controlling there, no mapping required, anything like that. So obviously faders in this instance are going to take care of the faders on the software. Using the encoders here, I can use control pan as well. Now we've got a nice little feature here that if we want to actually access the whole channel strip rather than the sort of the whole general mixer, if I press the master button here, I now get a red light on this, which is basically saying that I'm focused on channel 1.
Okay, great.
Okay. Now, if I start to use the encoder here, oh, he says, let's go for that. Let's try this one. It's decided not to. Okay, that's interesting. Maybe I need to just press the button again. Okay, back into this mode. Okay, yeah, it is. I mean, essentially, what I can do with this is I can take over the whole channel strip. Let me just try it with the.
So this is rather than be a general, you know, covering all bases. This is really getting into the channel strip itself.
Exactly, that's right. Yeah. So let's see if I got. Yeah. Oh, okay. I beg your pardon. I kind of, as I say, I've been the reason guy. I mean, if you look now at my, for example, the low frequency control here, I've now got control over it. Here I'm going over the, again over the EQs. So sorry, I was just off screen there, so I couldn't really see what I was kind of controlling. But effectively, we've got access now to the channel strip. And again, if I press onto the next channel here, and then start to control, I'm controlling channel 2's low frequency there. So, you know, again, it's quite a nice way of being able to actually, you know, flip between going over the main mix and covering sort of main mix control, and then actually going deeper into the channel strip control itself and getting a bit deeper with it.
Can you reassign those, you know?
Again, if we take off in control, these become CC controllers. So if you wanted to MIDI map with these are now not in control mode, and therefore you can assign those as you see fit. If I go back to my instruments now, so let's come out of that. And now again, if I, for example, let's go to Thor and show programmer here. Oh, press the button, of course. Right click. And now I'll focus in control on this. So I can start to control the different parameters again using the faders here. And we can pick them up. And if I need to, again, I can press the master button, and I've got, again, control over other stuff here as well. So, so basically, it's a really powerful Reason controller. But alongside that, you know, we've got a lot of implementation with Ableton as well. So we'll move on to Ableton now. So I'm going to close Reason down. And then we'll go for live.
Okay, we've got a couple more questions, Chris, while you're loading up. So just to get a rep has asked if the pads are velocity sensitive, which we actually spoke about a little bit earlier, didn't we?
Absolutely. On the Launchkey, yes, they are. They're velocity sensitive on here, and of course, you know, as well as them using as being used as switches, if you like, for the different channels and stuff in Reason. You know, again, if you take in control off, then they're note messages.
So you can drum away on that.
Absolutely, exactly right. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And they are, velocity sensitive. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly open up something that I threw together this morning. But basically, we'll see how we can, you know, use the Launchkey to.
And for yourself, you find that you know, using a controller like the Launchkey, it speeds up your workflow, I guess. Oh wow,
nice. Okay, we're just checking. I've got a bit of a MIDI lock there. Sorry, Luke.
So you find that you know, using something like the Launchkey, it speeds up your workflow, I guess.
Definitely,
it helps you get ideas down quickly.
I mean, I think the key thing about any sort of tactile control surface like this is it just makes it into a real instrument for you. You know, you know, you can easily just grab hold of an encoder and actually start to play around with the filter. And you know, that's you know, it just gives you a different approach. It turns your DAW really into a workable instrument, I would say.
Gets your head out of the laptop a
exactly,
little bit.
yeah, that's it. It becomes more natural, you know, when, you know, as a musician you want to perform on an instrument, and, you know, as DAWs progress and become more like instruments, sort of full, you know, sort of orchestras almost, you know, sort of full production suites, but that are also acting as live instruments. I think it's really nice to be able to grab hold of, you know, grab hold of something physical rather than just on a trackpad or with a mouse.
Definitely.
So definitely, yeah. So we've loaded up live now, and let's just see if we start to, so it's, again, this is just set up in Live's preferences in here. So if I just go to my MIDI options here, we've got the launch key set up there, we've got in control, and we've got it turned on for remote and notes as well in the preferences there. And once that's done, that'll just, again, automatically start to map. Now, again, what I can do is if I click on my device, in this instance I've got the 808 kick highlighted there. If I start to use the encoders, you know, straight away we've got instant control over those. So again, really nice and straightforward, nice and easy to use. That's the same with effects as well. So if I just drag in, I don't know, I'll just grab a filter perhaps, just put it at the end there. And of course now we've got the blue sort of focus hand there, and again I've got instant control over that device. So, you know, it really just kind of puts that sort of the control of the software directly into your hands, really. Now with the launch key as well, we've got quite an interesting method of controlling clips. I've managed to load up a file that only actually has 2 clips in here, but that's fine because basically the pads that we have on the launch key, we've got 16 of them, 2 rows of 8, we can actually use in a similar way as we can with the launch pads. So I can actually trigger clips and stop clips with this. So if I had a few, I mean, let me just see if I can find something that's a bit more, let's see if I've got...
And the reason these are lit up is because
because we've got
loaded.
we've got active clips in there.
Okay,
now.
cool.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, I mean because we're on limited time. I'll just show you with this. But basically, we can just trigger these, and the bottom row will actually act as stop buttons as well.
Okay, cool.
Once again, if I need to move up and down, I can use the fast forward and rewind buttons there to give me a scope to move up and find and navigate to the actual a clip that I want to load. So for example, I'll just quickly double click in here and create a random clip. We'll just squeeze that down. Okay, so you can see now I've got this clip here. I mean, obviously it's dummy, there's nothing in there, but the actual clip itself is there. If I move up to the top row, I've got the access to these too. So again, you know, you've got a lot of navigation and the ability to move around with this. We can launch whole scenes again using the circle button at the end, and we can stop the scenes as well. So this is actually a stop all button, which is quite useful. Again, we've got our in control switches turned on here. So presently, with in control turned on, if I just open up this synth here, let's go for something that's got a macro control on it. So yeah, here we go. Okay, so yeah, they're not mapped, but that's not a problem. I mean, I'll just focus on that. Right. Yeah, so if we go for the macro control on here, you know, I'm instantly taking control there. If I take in control off, these are not actually affecting that because these are now actually sending CC message out.
Yeah.
So I can effectively, you know, I could potentially put a filter there at the end again, just as an example here, MIDI map the cutoff here to this knob. And I know that when I'm out of in control mode, this is always going to control that cutoff frequency. So, you know, I can actually do my own custom mappings on it as well.
And you can also, I guess you can swap between in control and out, you know.
Absolutely, the button's there, it's nice and easy to reach, you know, it's really straightforward. So yeah, absolutely. So you can set up your own custom mappings, or you could use the in-control mappings that are there for you as well. So that's obviously the launch key there as well. I think it'd be quite nice to just have a look at some of the things on the Launchpad S as well, and some of the things you can do to kind of get going with making tracks as well. You know, that sort of thing, because the Launchpad itself is a really powerful controller. I mean, it's obviously, you know, it looks like 64 buttons to people. In fact, well, 80 buttons, I guess, if you include the other buttons there as well.
And I guess for performance as well, it's a pretty incredible, you know, and portable, you know.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, exactly right. Yeah, I mean, this And Ableton is enough really for you to go and do a live set comfortably, you know. So I'm going to actually I'm going to unplug it because I want to show people it in the high power mode now. So I'm just going to plug it back in with the connection there. And now I've just turned it into full power mode, hopefully. Yeah, it's full power. That's good. I exit that now and we'll go, I'll just have a second to reset. So we'll go into session mode. Yeah, so you can see now it's really bright and as I say, really fast refresh rates. One of the problems on the old Launchpad was, you know, sort of a lot of YouTube videos, people they're demoing it, and the lights, you know, unfortunately we're refreshing a bit slowly for video cameras. But now, hopefully, you know, we should be able to see that, you know, we've got a really solid performance light there with it. So, I mean, in general terms, the you know, the Launchpad itself is a grid controller. It's great for starting and stopping clips and that sort of thing. If I go to my mixer section here, I can just see that, yeah, I thought things were a little bit tasty there in volume-wise. But if I just press the volume button, it does become a control surface for your volume as well. Cool. So, I mean, here we go. You can see that on fader number 5 there. Yeah. So you've got that sort of control. Again, I've got things like pan as well. I can send things to left and right using the using the pan control. If I have any sends set up as well, I can use these to actually activate and send the sends. So, I mean, even though, you know, it's buttons and whatnot, it's actually really useful as a kind of, you know, as a kind of encoder style control as well. User 1's very interesting. User 1 is effectively a drum rack, if you like. So in your drum racks, we just open up this this drum rack here. You can see that on the actual side of the drum rack, of course, you've got your different sample slots there to load in, and effectively now using in fact 2 columns of 4, we can actually use this to trigger. I'll just arm that track so we can get some sound. He says. Okay, user 1, yeah, that should be right, unless I turn the volume down before. No. Okay.
Just in the meantime, Chris, as well, we've got Wasach, who's asked if, I'm guessing the Launchpad, if it works with FL Studio as well?
Yes, it does, absolutely, yeah. The Launchpad, as I say, has become class compliant now, and actually in the box as well, there are a set of overlays for FL Studio
Okay,
too.
fantastic.
So, yeah, that's quite an exciting development, I guess. So yeah, absolutely. Cool. But you know, as I say, it's because it's become class compliant. There's no specific driver required. It's kind of opened up the possibilities really for all of that side of things. So yeah, now I see what the problem was there. I'll send that to Launchpad. Okay, so we've got sounds being played here now. We can trigger happily enough with the user 1. As I say, if I had more samples in here, I could use this as a second sort of row, if you like, of 4. I've done a couple of other things on this user 1 mode as well. So for example, which one is it? This button here, I've actually, I don't know if you can see there, but it's actually changing my monitor state for the first 2 MIDI tracks. Now the first 2 MIDI tracks are actually set up to be to give us LED feedback on the Launchpad. So I mean, if I take that off again, so put that up to off, we're getting no kind of feedback from the Launchpad itself. If we put that onto in, I can actually trigger those parts.
And they are fast as well, aren't they?
Yeah. So, you know, we can get quite a bit. Now, you'll notice here that I've got some interesting stuff going on with the actual buttons as I'm pressing them. Rather than it just lighting one button, it's actually lighting a sort of a row of 4 there. And really, that's just kind of a special effect, if you like. And what we've done is on this return channel, which is this MIDI 1 channel here, I've actually put a coder on there. So this is feeding the MIDI signal back into the Launchpad. But it's in effect, it's actually adding a chord as well, and that is why we're getting the additional notes lighting up as well. So, yeah. So I mean, it's as I say, it's a lot brighter. There's a lot more going on with it. In terms of things like sort of maybe creating a track from scratch, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I know that this button at the top here should turn on my metronome here, which it does. If I go into my session mode here and sort of trigger a clip, so I've got 2 or 3 bars, or 4 bars, 4 bars. If I press the button again now, that's just going to be a 4-bar container there. Again, using MIDI mapping here, I've MIDI mapped the overdub button up at the top there to this button down here. So I can just go into user 1, put overdub on, and then I can get my timing right, of course, yeah. Maybe it started halfway through a bar there. But, you know, we can start to just basically automate, you know, other than kind of get my timing completely wrong there. You know, I was able to sort of set up a clip and then start to actually input directly into it there.
Cool. Well, as we approach time, Chris, have you got any kind of last bits you want to go through at all?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's another thing that I'll show you as well, because, I mean, let me just find in my user library, here we go. This little thing that I set up, but actually it's one of the guys at Novation did a YouTube video, it's called Kill the Robots.
Right.
And it's another way of actually using Launchpad for kind of a live performance style thing. And this is just simply centered around a drum rack. And you know, the actual the engine itself isn't playing. We're not triggering any clips. We're not, you know, sort of sequencing, if we like, but we can just use the drum rack as an actual instrument. I mean, the drum rack's a very powerful thing. We've got 128 different slots there that we can use, and you know, we've got 64 of them are completely accessible from the Launchpad. So again, using that kind of that chorder idea, I've just set up some chords on these buttons here to play with the thumb, and then we get some drums on there as well. And again, that's using the chord. It's just really to kind of bring the sort of the performance, if you like, to life. Now, I'm no grid controller player. You know, I'm no finger drummer whatsoever. But you know, you can kind of Madian's safe. I think Madian and M4 Sonic are quite safe with this. But but the point is, though, all of a sudden this becomes quite an interesting instrument. And again, if you're using things like the scale MIDI utility and that sort of thing, you know, you can get some really nice performance style aspects out of this. You know, this isn't a keyboard, this is a completely different type of instrument, and quite universal as well. You know, when you see the sort of the black and white notes on a keyboard, if you're not a keyboard player, it's a bit kind of, you know, what do I do with this? But with this, you know, it's pretty,
I guess everyone sat there drumming away at some point.
Exactly, yeah, that's right. Badly like I do.
Myself as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, as I say, that it's really kind of, it's whatever you want it to be, essentially, the Launchpad. So yeah, so the key thing is really that it's a lot brighter, it's a lot faster. It's class compliant, so it'll work with all software, work with the iPad as well. The Launchkey as well, of course, you know, we now have 3 controller keyboards in the range. We've got the Launchkey, which is the sort of the, if you like, the entry-level keyboard. Then we have the Impulse. So see, you've got a fine example of the Impulse here. And then, of course, the SL range as well, which is kind of the flagship, if you like, of the controller keyboards. So, yeah, so it's really just an opportunity to come in and talk to you about the sort of new control surfaces that we have, and you know, I guess what's new in the Launchpad S over the Launchpad, and have a look at, you know, what we can do with the Launchkey. So,
well, you know, many thanks for coming down,
thanks
Chris,
a lot.
And for giving us an insight into these 2 new bits of kit. They're out now, I guess.
Absolutely. Well, the Launchpad S is actually now shipping. This, I think, is about to hit. I can't be too certain, but it's certainly in the next sort of week or 2. This will be in stores as well. Cool.
So yeah, you guys watching at home, if you do want to learn more about you know, these 2 new controllers, then head over to the Novation site. And also, as I said a little bit earlier, from us here at Point Blank, make sure you head over to pointblankonline.net to check out our range of online courses that are starting on Monday. And yeah, this session, this will be archived fully on the YouTube channel. So just head over to youtube.com if you want to go back through, you know, and kind of pick up on more of the stuff that Chris has gone through today. And that's it from us. We'll be back on this Monday, on the 29th of April, where we'll have a masterclass with Dinky and Matthew Styles. I think they're going to be doing some songwriting techniques and some production stuff as well. So yeah, we'll see you on Monday, and thank you guys for watching. We'll see you soon. Bye bye.